Welcome to all of you for Camp Maddie Kitten Edition. I'm Monica Tarrant, Chief Innovation Officer for Give Them 10. And today I'm going to be talking to you about kittens and how they pertain to your community cat programs. And if any of you know me, you know that I am much more comfortable in a room full of angry feral cats than I am in a room full of adorable little neonates. And so you may ask, why is Monica here talking to us today about community cats when this is Camp Maddie Kitten Edition? And I'm going to tell you why. Community cats and kittens are intricately entwined. You cannot have kittens without community cats. And so this is really the foundation of where kitten programs begin. They're all coming from your community cats. And so that's why I'm kicking this off as the first presenter, because it all kind of starts here. 80% of kittens are born to free-roaming cats. And if you work with community cats, you work with kittens, kind of whether you want to or not, right? Oftentimes, trappers, those of us in field for community cats, we would rather not work with kittens, right? We definitely don't like when we trap them. We really don't like when they are born in our traps on the way to the clinic. But if you work with community cats, this is also your life. You probably are also very aware that TNR and return to home can become really challenging and really controversial when kittens are involved. What do we do with them? Do they get returned to? Tricky situation that we're going to talk about today. And oftentimes these programs compete for shelter resources instead of working together, even though they are intricately entwined. So what I want to talk to you about is that if we are going to manage kittens, we really must have a functional system of intake and return decisions in the shelter. Functional, efficient system. We've got to have one. And so right now, our intake department, our folks at the front line, are trying to decide, does this cat get returned? Do we intake this cat? Maybe we send this cat to foster? Is there such a thing as finder to foster? Can we do that? Maybe it's a working cat. Is it social enough for that? Do we have capacity to take that cat in? It's a big old mess, right? Big old mess. We need to simplify this. We've got to have a functional system as a foundation if we want to help more kittens. And we do want to help more kittens. We need to help more kittens. Throughout today, in all of our Camp Maddie kitten presentations, we are going to reiterate the scope of the situation that kittens are in this country right now. There are 180 million kittens born in the US every year right now. We know that they are the highest risk population in animal shelters. Kittens are the most euthanized population. Of all the cats who died in care in our shelters, 71 to 83% of those were kittens. Of the cats we had 102,000 cats who were lost or died in care in 2024. And what I think is an alarming statistic is that of over 45% of neonates who died in shelters did so unassisted. So they weren't euthanized, they passed away of their own unassisted. And that can be really concerning. So there is a critical need for us in animal welfare to increase the size of our kitten programs and the scope of them. This is really a crisis situation for kittens. And so a lot of what we talk about today is going to be focused on high volume shelters and high volume programs who are moving a ton of cats and kittens through, because this is a crisis and we need to make the biggest impact as humanly possible. So if you are a small rescue group, bless you, we urgently need you in this game as well. You may not find everything we're going to talk about today super relative to what you may do, but hopefully it will also teach you a little bit of what's going on at those big commercial shelter or big nonprofit municipal shelters. But huge need, immediate need to really ramp up our cat programs and our kitten programs. And so we're going to tell you how to do that today. I want you to take a look at this graph to further bring that point home. While kittens make up about half of intakes for cats, they're accounting for almost 60% of non-live outcomes. And those non-live outcomes are on the rise. So you can see that teal component are all of our kittens who have non-live outcomes in shelters the last 2 years. It is really safe to say that our kittens need help. We are struggling with them. We need to do better. We need to get there really quickly and in a big way. So we're going to do that for you today. If you want to know the scale of the situation in your own community, this is a snazzy little resource from our friends at the Community Cat Podcast. You can scan that QR code. It'll bring you right up to this calculator where you can input the zip code for your own community. And it will tell you the number of cats that need to be spayed and neutered annually, both owned cats and community cats that need to be done annually. And so if you look at these numbers for my community, 38,000 pet cats and almost 5,000 community cats need to be spayed and neutered every year. That is staggering. That is the scale of the situation. And so if I seem dramatic talking about how much we really need to ramp up our programming, this is why. So go check out for your community and see what your capacity is. Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. Monica's not going to sit here and tell you about all the bad things that are going on in our shelters. Don't worry. We've got hope for the future. We've got our roadmap. A literal roadmap is coming your way. We've got tools. We've got Kitten College, where Marnie is going to come talk to you about how you can help more kittens while it being more manageable. And she promises that you will get more sleep at night. That's amazing. Dr. Levy is going to join us, and she's going to tell you about the latest medical care and treatments for kittens and how you can even give that on a budget. And then we've got Tabitha, who's going to finish up and talk about socializing kittens. How do you deal with some of those tough cookies and get them purring more and hissing less? So we've got lots of hope for you. But first, here we are back at the very foundation of kitten life-saving. This is called the feline superhighway, and it is all about creating the right available outcome for every cat. If you go to this QR code, it's going to take you to the Feline Superhighway webpage where you can get a lot more resources. And this QR code will take you to the literal roadmap where you can download the rules of the road. Just like when you were in school learning to drive, you can download this rules of the road and learn, as the pamphlet so eloquently says here, what to do with all these cats. This is going to help you do it. So, the feline superhighway. There are 4 main buckets of cats, if you will, that comprise your intake. These are the groups of cats who are coming into your shelter. And we need to have a very efficient way to pathway plan for these cats in an efficient way, an effective way, a humane and responsible way, but that one that also allows for individuality, making the best available choice for each individual cat. So we're going to go down each of these groups of cats and determine what their superhighway is. Their superhighway is their quick path out of the shelter system. So you've got your healthy adults, you've got kittens coming in, you've got cats coming in with nowhere to return them to, and then you've got cats coming in that don't thrive outdoors. And we need to figure out what to do with them quickly, efficiently, that is the correct choice for each cat. So we'll get started. Maybe this is an easy group, maybe not. Healthy, free-roaming adult cats. These are over 6 months of age. They're free-roaming. They come to you in good body condition. The superhighway for them, or preferred outcome, is to return those cats to their location of origin. So they come in the door, we put them right on the superhighway, out the back door, back to return to their location of origin. Okay, and why are we going to do that? We know that removing free-roaming cats from their outdoor homes makes things worse, way worse, up to 200 times worse. This is the vacuum effect that we know is a scientific thing, right? Removal makes things much, much worse. We don't want to do that. Thriving adults removed from their environments displace kittens and cats who truly need intake, right? If your foster homes and if your condos are filled up with lovely 10-pound tomcats who were free roaming and friendly, and you thought that they deserved an indoor home, so we took them in, you now don't have those resources to give to kittens and cats who truly need intake. And if you remember the scope of the situation, the kittens really, really need you, right? So we have to have space and resources for them. And as we have probably all learned the hard way at one point in our career, mature feral cats are not candidates for pets, right? They don't work out so well. And while relocation may be an option for some in worst case scenario, it is suboptimal and risky. So healthy, free roaming adult cats, their superhighway is right out back where they came from after being neutered and vaccinated and checked out. Okay, Monica, you said, I hear you, I get it. We can return those cats where they came from, but what about the friendly cats, the friendly free roaming cats? Or you can say, Monica, we've got a lot of people in our community that say, I'm fine with putting the feral cats back outside, but not the friendly cats. This is an enormous controversy in this country, and it continues. And I'm going to try and be very clear so that you've got some really clear, non-shady guidance on this. Healthy, free roaming, friendly cats, their superhighway or preferred outcome is still to return them to the location of origin. Why? Why is that so, Monica? Why do we have to put the friendly cats back? I'll tell you why. The majority of friendly cats in our shelters who are free roaming come from a few places. It was a lost pet. That's an option. And that lost pet is 10 times more likely to be reunited with his or her family if it is returned to the location where we found it. We could spend all day talking about why owners do not reclaim their cats from the animal shelter, but the fact is they don't. And the fact is that the pet is 10 times more likely to go back home if we put it back where we found the cat. The other chunk of these cats are actually pets who are simply on walkabout, who never needed to be rescued. These were indoor-outdoor cats who were simply outside. They were not lost. They were not displaced. They did not need rescue. But probably out of very good intentions, someone swooped them up and brought them to the animal shelter where they do not need to be. The other option is that this was a community cat who is cared for by residents and they don't want that cat stolen. And I want you to think about how this cat got friendly. If this was a cat and he's outside and he's friendly, he got that way because someone's caring for him, someone's socializing him. Probably lots of someones are taking care of him. If that wasn't the case, he would be a feral cat, right? But he's a friendly cat. So a friendly, healthy, thriving adult cat, his superhighway is still to be returned to the location of the origin. And I'll go one step further and be very, very clear. A cat's temperament or social ability, their friendliness should not be a decision in your matrix of whether to return a cat or to intake a cat. Should not be up there to make a decision. Okay, so what about cats who just shouldn't go back? They can't go back. We call those off-ramps. For every one of these populations of cats, they have a superhighway where the bulk are going to go down, but that's not right for every cat, right? The cat superhighway is meant to make the best choice for each cat that we have individually, right? And so if a cat cannot go down the designated superhighway, it can get off an off-ramp and go somewhere else, right? And so possible off-ramps of the superhighway for adult cats might look like owner surrenders. We're not going to put them back where we found them, right? Of course not. They are going to get off on an off-ramp and go to a different program. You may encounter a feral cat who can't be returned. If there's nowhere to return that cat to, we certainly cannot send it down the return superhighway. If there's a risk to returning that cat, we aren't going to send him down the return superhighway. But I will challenge you to be a little skeptical and do your homework if risk of being returned comes up often for your organization. I would like the risk to be verified and real. I have worked with some organizations where we tend to get a little overprotective out of the goodness of our hearts. And so real risk does not mean, well, this is in an undesirable neighborhood. Real risk is not, I don't like the caregiver, they're a little weird. You know, real risk means is the neighborhood's being torn down and developed right now. Real risk means someone is actively harming the cats. Those are real risks. So verify your real risk if cat cannot be returned. And of course, if the cat, you don't know where it came from, oftentimes we will get, unfortunately, these cats left on our doorstep and we have no idea where it came from, right? Then it cannot go down the superhighway to be returned. It needs to get off on an off-ramp. If you've got a friendly free-roaming cat who's obviously been abandoned, he's going to get off at an off-ramp. We wouldn't send him down the superhighway towards return. That's not appropriate. And you can tell if he's a friendly cat who's truly been abandoned. You can use your tools and do your homework there to figure out, maybe he's dirty, as community cats are usually very clean. So your friendly abandoned cat may be dirty, he may be scruffy, he may be underweight. He will frequently be meowing and acting weird. He may be trying to get into people's apartments or houses. These are not normal community cat behaviors. And so that may indicate that this is a cat who's truly been abandoned. A lot of the times you will also get neighbors who will say, hey, the family down the street moved out and he lived with them and they left the cat behind. Okay, well, now you know, and you can help that friendly cat, and you will hopefully help that friendly cat by saying, that's awesome. Thank you so much for looking out for him, dear neighbor. Would you please take him in and foster him while we put him up for adoption? And obviously cats with significant health concerns, no one is suggesting you send them down the superhighway towards return. They're going to get off at an off-ramp as well and get the medical care that they need. Okay, so that is the highway system for adult free-roaming cats. But first, before we move on to the next bucket, I'm going to show you a quick video with one of my favorite colleagues with giving her expert tips and tricks about kittens in community cat programs.
Hi, you went on the adoption train?
Hi, I'm Melissa Jenkins. I have some tips for you for community cat programs. Number 1, always work with the caregiver. Here at Catnip, we have an inventory of about 450 live traps, and we use these to equip and empower our community to trap the cats themselves. Rather than investing in a lot of manpower and volunteers to go out and trap cats, many of whom won't trust a stranger, we have invested instead in the equipment to get our public and our community to do that trapping and bring the cats in themselves. The cats have relationships with their caregivers, and it's really important to harness that, and also creating goodwill towards your organization within the community. It's really important that community members who care about cats understand what you're doing, that you're not just here to take the cats away from them, that you're here to give them a better setup for a good life with spay, neuter, and vaccinations. My second tip is to let kittens lead you to cats. We hear it all the time that a kitten was dumped in my yard, or this litter of kittens was dumped by someone. And while that's certainly possible, what we typically find is that where there are kittens, there are cats. And we really want to empower our community to seek out and take steps to sterilize those adult cats, as well as providing care for those kittens. It's really important that we get the adults because we don't want to have kittens over and over and over again. We want the cycle to stop for those adult cats. To ask, where is the mother cat? Have you seen other cats in the community? Are you willing to get a trap and try and trap the cats for spay neuter? And my last tip is to think creatively. We know that trapping is an art, not a science. And being able to utilize different types of traps, different types of bait, different tricks like covering the trap with a sheet or putting it inside of a box. These are all ways that we can be more successful at trapping and get all of the cats instead of just the easy ones or the low-hanging fruit. We're also thinking creatively in terms of medical care. Cats that come through our clinic are getting the same package of sterilization, a rabies and FERCP vaccine, a dose of flea prevention and an injection of pain medication. But sometimes we see cats with wounds, illnesses, injuries, and we want to be able to provide them with care to treat those. So offering different kinds of medications, discussing with caregivers their ability to house and treat, and if they're not able to, what can we do? And just being able to say, this cat needs a little more, and we want to be able to give that to them so that they can have great quality of life. And then we also think creatively in terms of outcomes. So most of the cats that come to us are getting that standard TNR, trap, neuter, and return. But sometimes we say, well, maybe something else is the right option for this cat. We have a program for kittens where our community can utilize our spay-neuter clinic and wellness clinic for friendly kittens that they are caring for. They can get the mom fixed. And then once those kittens are fixed and vaccinated, they can use community rehoming resources or their own social networks to find homes for them. We're not a rescue and we don't have an adoption program. So we empower our community to be able to be their own adoption program for the kittens that they're caring for. So think creatively in terms of everything from getting the cats, having the cats, and getting the cats out of your system. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate everything you do for community cats.
Thank you for Melissa for putting that great video on for us. Okay, so let's move to friendly kittens. What is their superhighway preferred outcome? For them, we want them to go to a pet home. So they're coming in the front door. We are going to fast track them to getting a pet home. That's their desired outcome. That's their superhighway. Why? Well, as we talked about at the very beginning, this is a population that really needs our help badly, right? These guys are also highly adoptable. Removal from their colony or removal from outside is unlikely to trigger a population increase. And kittens are unlikely to be bonded to caregivers at that point. Plus, they're going to adapt well to a new life. You know, some adult cats that we bring in from outside never, ever learn to live inside and they kind of hate it. Kittens, though, will pretty much learn to accept most things in life. And so they do really well. So friendly kittens, their superhighway, their preferred outcome is to be fast-tracked to adoptions. Here's a caveat, though. You can't fast track those kittens to adoption. You can't send them down that adoption superhighway without a robust, barrier-free adoption program. Absolutely nothing that we talk about today is going to work unless you are prepared to move cats through your system quickly, responsibly, and at scale. I feel like I have talked about this for many, many years, and the time is now, guys. Please remove those adoption barriers. You can do it. I will help you. You can scan this QR code, and it will take you to a free on-demand course that Maddie's and I have available all the time about removing adoption barriers for cats. This is absolutely the time to do it. So if you are on the fence looking for a sign that, hey guys, maybe we need to look over our adoption application again or consider some of these hoops that we're asking adopters to jump through, this is your sign. Now is the time to do it. The kittens need you to do it. So scan that QR code and reach out to us if we can help you do that. Okay, but what about the kittens who are not appropriate to go down the superhighway to adoption? What are some of their off-ramps? Why wouldn't they go to adoption? So one of the big reasons is because the kitten is not social and it's unlikely to become social. And I think this is a mistake that all of us have made at some point in our career too, of we tried to socialize a kitten that we really should not have. And so when you are making that call, I would urge you to think about what is the degree of socialization that you are ultimately going to likely get from this cat. Are you going to be able to fully socialize it so it's a normal pet cat? Or are you going to end up with some sort of weird half social, half feral type of a thing? And then the other thing that I always ask people to keep in mind is whether your socialization attempts are humane. It really will depend on the age of the kitten, of course. The older that they get, the harder it is to reach a level of socialization that is acceptable to most adopters, and the more stressful it is on those cats and kittens. So really think, are we doing the best thing for that kitten in each situation? We also would not send a kitten down the adoption superhighway if doing so would displace cats who are truly in need and would lead to euthanasia. So I can't take in kittens for adoption if that means I have to euthanize some cats in the back because I'm simply out of room. Then I would not send kittens down the highway. They would get a different off-ramp. If adoption is not possible, return to home with extra considerations is the next best choice for kittens. So if you don't have the capacity to put them down the adoption superhighway, that's okay. Lots of folks can't, right? We all fill up at some point. If adoption is not possible, return those kittens to home. Make sure it's a nice environment. They've got a little extra precautions. They're out there with other cats. Give them a little extra consideration, and you could return those kittens to home. When adoption nor return to home nor a working cat program is possible, euthanasia is preferable to returning these kittens to places where chances of suffering, starvation, and death are high, right? Euthanasia is preferable to sending them to a known inhumane death, right? So those are the off-ramps for kittens. And now, another one of my favorite colleagues who works the front lines in New Orleans is going to talk to you about kittens in her community cat program.
I'm really excited to be here talking to you all about one of my favorite populations in the shelter, and that is kittens, especially community kittens, and how we can support them throughout kitten season. So I'm going to give you all my top 3 tips going into kitten season to support this vulnerable population. And you're already ahead of the 8 ball on my first recommendation, my first tip, and that is preparing for kitten season ahead of time. Not after the floodgates of kittens have come pouring on in. We want to build up fosters, get information out to the public about what to do if they find kittens ahead of when the kitten intakes start increasing. I've had shelters host like kitten showers, not just to get kitten supplies, but also to get people signed up to foster and showing them how to bottle feed ahead of kitten season. It's also great to post about kitten lifesaving programs and kitten education on social media, as well as news media and outlets to get this information out to the public. It is always better to be in a proactive position rather than a reactive position when it comes to any type of programming, but especially programs that support our most vulnerable populations, such as kittens. The next tip that I have is explaining the why. We are always more likely to get the community to cooperate with our ask, whether it's returning the kittens back outside with mom or becoming a finder foster, if they understand why it isn't in the kitten's best interest to come into the shelter. People brought you these kittens because it is what they were taught to do. They were taught that bringing the kittens to the shelter is the right thing to do. So it is an action that is fueled by compassion, because they could have done anything else. They could have, relocated the kittens. They could have just ignored them. But they were taught if they saw kittens and they thought maybe something was potentially wrong, that they should go to the experts at the animal shelter and that they should be intake in there. And so now we've learned that, kittens are extremely vulnerable and they do not do well in shelters, and we can help retrain the community by providing them with the information that we as experts know to be true. And that's that we don't want these kittens to be in the shelter. We either want them back with mom or in a foster home to receive the support that they need. And so when someone comes into the shelter and they're expecting us to just intake the kittens, and we instead ask them if they could foster, for instance, we're not going with what they were expected. And so that when those moments happen, people sometimes need a minute to adjust. And we don't ever want to be in a position where we're saying no for them. So instead, we really want them to sit with the ask. We want to make sure that we've thoroughly explained why, walk them through our assessment and how we came to the recommendation that we did. And then from there, give them space to answer our requests. I have had a lot of success by approaching these conversations with the goal of having mutual understanding and getting more information to our community members by the end of it. My last tip for you is that every person is a network. If the kittens do need human support and the person in front of you can't foster, that doesn't mean they can't support you, the shelter, these kittens in another way. This applies not just to kitten season and kittens in general, but community engagement as a whole. We want to make the most of every conversation that we have with every community member that walks through our doors. Any person that walks through those doors has an entire network of people, neighbors, coworkers, friends, family. Maybe they're part of different civic groups and other types of community groups in our community. Whatever it is, they have a network of people that we might not have ever reached if this person hadn't come into the shelter today. And those people could be future adopters, fosters, volunteers, and donors. And so if we have this person in front of us and they're not able to foster, that's not where the conversation ends. We now want to talk to them about the other ways they can offer support, such as reaching out to their network to find a foster that can bring these kittens home today.
Thank you to Leah for that. She is fantastic. Okay, so our next group of cats that we need to talk about a superhighway for are our feral cats who come in with nowhere to be returned to. Their superhighway, or their preferred outcome, is fast tracking these guys to outdoor placement. And so that looks like working cat programs. Maybe you call them barn cat programs, rodent ranger programs. There's lots of fun names for these, but they are an absolutely critical piece of the puzzle in our feline life-saving toolbox. Working cat programs are the final safety net for unsocialized cats with no home to return to. So if you've got a cat, again, who's a feral, unsocialized cat who was left in a trap at your door and you have no idea where he came from, he should be fast-tracked down the working cat superhighway. This is also good for cats who can't live indoors for a variety of reasons, though. Like I said, maybe they're used to living outside and they just are miserable inside. Maybe they are chronic house soilers. Maybe they are cats that I call too much cat, who needs a job to do so they stay out of trouble and stop biting people. These programs are highly successful, but they're not without risk, right? And so this is the absolute last choice. Working cat programs are not a relocation program for all of your community's cats. That is not appropriate. We are never ever going to round up all the community cats and send them to some, utopian's farm. That's not how this works. We need to save the spots that we do have for cats who truly need it. Those are usually cats who have nowhere else to go to and they cannot be indoors for some other reason. How do we launch a working cat program though, Monica? We don't have one. Well, I've got news for you. Maddie's and I have a very, very successful module online that you can access by scanning this QR code. It is, again, free, thanks to Maddie's. It's on demand, so you can take it whenever you like from the comfort of your home. From start to finish, it will walk you through how to start a working cat program, how to adopt cats through it, how to find adopters, how to do follow-up. It will walk you through the whole thing, so you can access it anytime. And you get to listen to more of me, which you will be sick of by the end of the day, I promise. Okay, so the last group of cats, where is their superhighway? These are cats who are not thriving. We don't know what's wrong with the cat. The cat, who knows what ADR means? This is one of my favorite terms in veterinary medicine. ADR is an actual term. It means ain't doing right. So cat's not thriving. We don't know why. Cat simply ain't doing right. What do we do with him or her? This cat's superhighway or preferred outcome is to admit this cat, and again, preferably without a shelter stay. But we need to admit this cat and figure out what's going on. We're not just going to send them down the superhighway to being returned or being adopted, right? We're going to admit lost, unthrifty, relinquished, and abandoned cats. Again, our goal is without a shelter stay, though. So use your tools here. You've got shelter diversion as a tool that you can use. You've got supported self-rehoming options. Can you help this person rehome this cat all on their own or with some help from your shelter? Can you turn this finder into a foster? You've got all these tools available to you that will hopefully avoid a shelter stay while still helping this cat get down the right superhighway for him or her. And I want you to think of the superhighway as another tool in your arsenal to help you make those good, efficient, and responsible managed intake decisions, those pathways to help you, make efficient decisions, but also really picking out the right available choice for each cat. So we're going to do a little recap here. Fast track your healthy adults to return to home. That is their superhighway. Your social kittens, They are going to barrel down the superhighway to adoption. That's their preferred outcome. Your ineligible return to field cats, we will fast track them and send them down the superhighway towards your barn cat program. And we will fast track sick, injured, owner surrenders, and neonates through our organization programs. Those are their main superhighways. It's the default. When those cats come in from those groups, we already know the default pathway that they are going to go down. And if they don't fit down that default pathway, that's when they'll go off those off ramps. But embracing this superhighway and this kind of a structure is going to streamline your intake and your pathway planning and allow you to really scale up your operations. If you've got a set number of superhighways, you know what the off-ramps are, and the superhighway is the default option unless the cat needs to get off on a off-ramp. So the superhighway is going to scale up your ability to help cats and kittens. It's going to help you find the right available outcome for every cat, and it enables you to prioritize those who are truly in need and have a much bigger life-saving impact. And remember, again, you cannot help all the kittens that you want if all of your resources are tied up in cats that were healthy and they were thriving in their outdoor homes. We really have to focus on the kittens who need us. So please remember that those graphs at the very beginning about the scope of the situation in this country. Okay, so we've got a few cats here that we are going to play a little quiz here, and please put your answers in the chat. I can't see your chat answers, but I'm going to trust that you're doing it. Tell me what superhighway you would send these cats down. This is Meow. She's a skittish adult cat, first noticed to be visiting in the backyard a few weeks over the last few months. Meow seems to be in good condition, but nobody knows if Meow has a steady source of food or shelter. What superhighway would you send Meow down? If this were my organization, I would send Meow down the return to home superhighway as the preferred outcome. It says that Meow is skittish and she's in good body condition. So that is all the evidence I need that she has the resources she needs in her environment to thrive. I'm going to spay or neuter Meow, vaccinate Meow, and send Meow packing down that return to home superhighway. That's what I would do in my community. Okay, what would you guys do with Fizzy? Tell me in the chat what superhighway Fizzy would go down. Fizzy is one in a litter of 3 kittens born on a farm to a feral queen. All of the kittens have eye discharge, and it looks like one of Fizzy's eyes have ruptured. What superhighway would Fizzy go down for you? In my community, I would send Fizzy down that highway that leads to the clinic and then to pet adoption home. We know that kittens need help, right? They're highly adoptable. They're not going to displace other cats in my organization if I take Fizzy in. And it's not going to create an extra population out in the colony. So I want to take Fizzy in. Fizzy is not thriving. Fizzy needs medical attention. It would not be appropriate to send Fizzy back down the return superhighway. Fizzy is going, in my organization, down the towards adoption superhighway. That's what I would do with Fizzy. Keep in mind that your superhighways, your choices here may be different based on your community and your resources. So this is just to get you thinking. Okay, what superhighway are you sending Felix down? Felix is a friendly 10-week-old kitten who was found with his littermates in a box in front of a closed supermarket. Don't you all love when that happens? The store manager called the shelter and requested a pickup, and now you have Felix in his box of kittens. Where are you sending Felix? What superhighway is he trucking down? In my organization, in my community, Felix and his box living brethren are being sent straight down the adoption superhighway, for hopefully without a shelter stay. They are getting fast-tracked right into finding a pet home. Pretty easy case there for me. Okay, what about Snowy? Snowy is a feral cat dropped off at a local emergency clinic overnight. There was no information about who brought Snowy in or where Snowy came from. What superhighway are you sending Snowy down once you pick her up from the emergency clinic and you've got to figure out what to do with Snowy? For me, Snowy is getting fast-tracked down the barn cat superhighway, right? I don't know where she came from, so I can't return her to her original home. She is unsocialized, so I can't send her down the adoption superhighway. Her fast-tracked, her live outcome, her preferred outcome, the best thing I can do for her is to send her down the working cat superhighway. That's what I would do in my community. Okay, Miss Kitty. Miss Kitty is a friendly adult cat with a flea collar. Ooh, this one's getting tough. She's a flea collar who is found thin and meowing in the front yard of a residence. She ran inside their house when the door opened. The residents posted found cat signs in the neighborhood. They heard that Miss Kitty belonged to a family that moved away 3 months ago. Boy, oh boy. What superhighway are you sending Miss Kitty down? What is her preferred outcome? For me, in my community, I am sending Kitty down that superhighway for really and truly abandoned cats who are going to be in need of a traditional adoptive home, right? I'm not going to return Miss Kitty. I'm not going to send her down that that return superhighway. She's going down the adoption superhighway because she has clear evidence that she was really abandoned and that she's not a community cat. She's meowing. She's trying to get in the door. She's underweight. She is clearly not a community cat. She's given us lots of signs of that. And also the neighbors have told us this is an abandoned cat. So what I would actually prefer to do to these kind neighbors who brought us Miss Kitty and told us about it was say, hey, can we vaccinate and spay Miss Kitty? Can we get her up for adoption? Would you mind hanging on to her and helping us rehome her? And hopefully Miss Kitty can get a new adoptive home that way without a shelter stay. Okay, I believe Peanut Butter is our last one. So tell me where you would send Peanut Butter. What road is he going down in your organization? Peanut Butter here is a friendly male cat who was born in the neighborhood 2 years ago. So he's been living out there for 2 years. He regularly visits everybody in the neighborhood and goes around eating their snacks. Lately, Peanut Butter has been spraying screen doors and aggravating an indoor cat who lives there, acting like a big old jerk. What are you doing with Peanut Butter? What superhighway is he going down for your community, your organization? For me, this is one of my favorite types of cats. Peanut Butter is getting neutered, and Peanut Butter's butt is going back to where he came from because he's going to be a much better neighbor. He will hopefully stop terrorizing the indoor cats. He will hopefully stop spraying on everything and aggravating the neighborhood. But he's been living there for 2 years. He's in good body weight. He's just acting like a jerk. And guess what? We can fix that with a little testicle removal, right? So he is going to get neutered and he's going to go right down his superhighway towards return back to his neighborhood. We've got some time for Q&A. Okay, I see one down here. It says, for the stat of the kittens being the most euthanized, does that include spay abort? No. Those numbers are actually not tracked nationally, so we don't even know how many kittens are aborted and spay aborted. So the numbers that we reference at the beginning of this are simply kittens who were euthanized or died. Does not include anybody who was in utero. In scenarios where people bring in cats and kittens from their property, but they refuse to TNR them, and they insist that we keep the cats because they don't want them on their property, what is the best way to proceed? Boy, I tell you, I've got a whole conflict management session that I do in my Maddie's feline lifesaving course, because this is a really common situation, right? I don't want the cat back. You deal with it. I like to approach this. It's called a learn model. And I like to empathize with this person. And first, I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to the boy, and I'm going to empathize and go, God, that is a real pain. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. That must be really frustrating. And then I'm going to say, how long has this been going on? And this person is likely going to say, forever. This has been happening for 20 years. I'm so sick of it. And you'll go, God, okay, for that reason, we can't keep doing the same thing that we've been doing, which is just taking the cats from you, because that doesn't work. So I want to do something that will help. This is a different way, and I need you to work with me here. But again, doing the same thing isn't working. That hasn't been helping you. So what I want to do is trap, neuter, return them. And I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of that. They're going to be better neighbors. I'm going to take any kittens from you. If I've got capacity, I'm going to take the kittens that'll immediately get your population down. Here's why this is going to be better for you. And let's just try. Will you let me just try? I'm going to follow up with you in a week or make sure that this is working for you. Will you let us try that? That's how I would approach that. That's how I would do it. And I understand that you varying levels of, argument that you're going to get back, but there's a model called Learn that I teach that is really effective in these tense intake room decisions. Okay. Do I have? Nope. We're about at time. So thanks for watching, and big thanks for everybody for being here.